I'm Allison, and this is how I lost the first 20 pounds. I can't sleep right now because I'm fasting, which is one of the known side effects of fasting. So let's talk about what I did to lose the first 20 pounds instead of sleep. How does that sound as a plan? The first thing I did to be ready for this journey is get my mind right. And what I mean by that is I had to make space. I've been avoiding my current reality for many years. I experienced heavily weight blindness, so I saw myself in my head as slender, never as the size that I actually was. So those are some protective factors that your mind puts into place so that you don't have to face reality. And then all of a sudden, through a lot of intensive, I guess not all of a sudden, so through a lot of intensive counseling, I shed that weight blindness and finally started to see myself for how the rest of the world sees me. And that was a really hard moment. And it made me really want this process to go a lot faster than it's going. But that protective weight blindness kept me sane for a lot of years because I didn't have to see what was going on. It also hurt me though, as you can imagine. So in order to start this process, I really had to heal enough to be ready to begin. I had to make space in my mind, and I chose to do that through counseling. I see a licensed social worker who is also a mental health professional. That is my preferred kind of mental health professional. But there are lots of different kinds. You can see doctors, you can see nurses, you can see nurse practitioners, you can see mental health therapists, you can see all number of different folks. So you can really get a fit that's right for you. Now, I also know that a lot of people don't have access to mental health services, and if that's not possible, I encourage you to look at things like mindfulness or a meditation practice, an accountability buddy, which I call accountability buddies. I like that non-word. Time in nature, journaling, or anything else that might help open up space in your mind. But basically, your mind is designed to protect you, and sometimes it makes it so that you can't see what you need to work on most. So that's the first thing I did, was make space. And then I had to actually decide to try again. I was looking at the beginning of 2025 and I made a vision board, and I selected all the images and printed them out and put them up on the wall. And then it immediately crashed to the ground and half the pictures fell off. So the universe kind of made a selection for me in the sense that I chose to look at the crash and burn as a editorial take on my vision board from the powers that be. And when I looked at that, superfluous things like the potting shed that I really want kind of went away, and a few more core items rose to the surface, and that was either focusing on my art or focusing on my health. And I got this little whisper that said, it doesn't really matter if you have art if you've got no health. So I decided to focus on getting myself right. And there is this quote that's out there floating around that says, if you don't know what to focus on yourself, making yourself the best version of yourself you can be. And that's what I decided to do this year. I also had some health issues I'd been ignoring. So I'm pre-diabetic. Depending on which doctor you talk to, I have type 2 diabetes, but I was improperly diagnosed by a weirdo. I have chronic eczema. I'm slow to heal. All kinds of things that were an indicator of less than optimal health. And so I'm very excited to be addressing those things now. So let's talk about what I'm eating and what I'm not eating. So what I'm eating is beef, chicken, pork, and eggs. So the protein groups. Oh, I don't eat seafood. So that is on the no list. So beef, chicken, pork, and eggs, and cultured dairy. So because I'm lactose intolerant, so I need the cultured element in order for things not to upset my tummy. So things like yogurt, cheese, cottage cheese, sour cream, that kind of dairy. And then I'm also eating veggies. And then in the fruit category, I'm eating berries. And then I'm drinking tea and fizzy water. Berries don't spike your blood sugar as often or as high as some other fruits. And veggies and protein usually have an inconsequential effect on your blood sugar. which is why I'm focusing there. And then cultured dairy just makes life better. I tell you what, it just makes life better. So what I'm not eating would be uncultured dairy, like milk and ice cream, even though that's kind of like my favorite thing in the world. I sometimes think you crave what you can't have the most. Sugar, it's on the no list. Honey, agave, and any sort of artificial sweetener. So I'm really not about the fake it till you make it situation where you fill yourself with a bunch of artificial sweeteners. That may be fine. It's just they don't appeal to me and they don't taste good to me, so I just don't do it. I'm avoiding most fruits because your body can't really interpret the difference between a fruit and a candy bar when it comes to your blood sugar. Maybe vitamins, yes, but blood sugar, no. Not drinking any more coffee, even though I love coffee, because it really was just an opportunity to drink foamy milk with sugar with a little bit of coffee flavor. So, and it kind of upsets my tummy, which I didn't know that before. And I'm avoiding seed oils, so I'm trying to not eat things that are fried. But something important here is that no food is entirely off limits, because that kind of deprivation is really going to mess me up and lead me to a place of feeling like I'm missing out and then subsequently binging, which is not good. So I'm also exploring intermittent fasting. I do know very little about intermittent fasting, but I'm being coached and I'm reading. So my mom is a retired registered nurse in the state of Washington and was a registered nurse for 40 years. Before she retired. And she also happens to be a metabolic health nerd. So she really, really enjoys this stuff in a way that few others do. So she's been researching it for years. I'm consulting multiple books, which I'll talk about in a second, and I'm also using a fasting tracking app to manage my intermittent fasting. The longest that I fasted so far is 42 hours. That was not hard because I was coming off of eating less than stellar choices, so my body had a lot of fuel, and as long as I was managing myself with electrolytes, I just sort of went until I couldn't go any longer with the fasting. But typically I do about 18 to 24 hours. That's 18 to 24 hours seems to be a more typical fast for me. Super easy for me to accomplish, especially if I focus on the electrolytes. And for me, it's a lot easier to be in the binary when it comes to food. I either can or I can't eat right now, which is a whole lot easier than what should I eat right now. And it just reduces the decision fatigue to only a couple times a day or only a short window in a day. And it really seems to enhance my overall compliance with the plan. As far as what I'm drinking, I'm only drinking fizzy water. For some reason, still water just doesn't appeal to me and never really has. But I don't drink anything that has sugar in it. No soda, no sweetened drinks, no added flavor packets, none of that. And then tea. I'm drinking tea because the coffee has started, or I'm aware that the coffee is upsetting my stomach. So no soda, no coffee, no alcohol. And I'm not a drinker, never have been. So that's super easy for me to just say no alcohol. Mindset and strategy stuff has been critically important to this journey, and that's what has made this time different than all the other times. So a couple of mantras that have sort of snuck into my head, so to speak, would be time passes anyway. And what are you going to do with that time? Because in 6 weeks from now, that 6 weeks is going to pass no matter what. So where you want to be for yourself. And that really shifted my perspective a lot. And then I also have been focusing on every minute is a chance to start over. And that has spoken to the issue of, well, I've already messed up the day, so let's just mess it up the rest of the way. I haven't really been feeling like that this time because it's about the chance to, every minute is a chance to start over. So I've also started to look at hunger as an indicator of fat burn. And I know that there's a limit to that. At a certain point, you're just freaking hungry. But in times where you're just lightly hungry, that's a feeling I used to be really uncomfortable with and would avoid. And so I'm trying to become more comfortable with the feeling of hunger and to know that that's indicating good things in my body. I'm also making decisions on what I will and won't eat at home. So kind of like putting boundaries around what and where I'll eat. So for example, cookies are a huge weakness for me. So I have decided that if I'm going to have a cookie, it's going to be a good one, and it's going to come from a bakery that I really, really love. And I'm not going to have like crappy packaged cookies like Oreos. Sorry, Oreos, you're not crappy. But I'm not going to have crappy packaged cookies like Oreos in my house. I've been using 10-minute timers. So we're back, we're still on mindset and mantras and like, how do you get your head in the right space for this? So I've been using 10-minute timers because sometimes trying to get from like 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. when you're craving pizza and you're waiting for the pizza place to close so that you don't make that order, 2 hours is too much to get through. So I've been using 10-minute timers, and I'll just set one 10-minute timer after the next because I know I can get it done in 10 minutes at a time. I can avoid that temptation. I'm also sitting down to eat. I am notorious as somebody who cooked for her family for every day for 15 years and put dinner on the table. I am notorious for just eating my dinner at the counter. It's a long-standing habit. So I'm trying to make myself sit down with myself, because I live alone, and have a proper meal.
Editing Allison here, and I wanted to talk about the fact that it took me a really, really long time to be able to eat proper food again after my divorce. Because I had spent so many years cooking for my family, I felt great sorrow when it came to cooking for myself. And I really had to heal that in order to be able to invite quality food back into my life.
And speaking of having a proper meal, I need to put my fork down between each bite and try to eat slower than my dinner mates. I do a lot of social eating, and I find that I'm the first person to finish my plate every single time. So I've been working to try and eat slower than the people that I'm eating nearby to. I've also decided that I'm not going to eat in bed or while I drive. And an important overarching theme is to give myself grace. This weight did not appear on my frame overnight, and it's not going to disappear overnight. And now more than ever, patience is king. So some resources that I'm using include books. I have a couple by Dr. Jason Fung that I really appreciate. And if you're interested in reading those books along with me, I'll be hosting some book clubs in my Discord community, which I'll talk about in just a moment. So feel free to come and join us and learn more about intermittent fasting from one of the world's experts, Dr. Fung. I have been focusing more on reading labels, making sure that I know exactly what I'm eating and how much added sugar is included in what I'm eating. We did talk at length about a timer. You can use any kind of timer, the one on your microwave, the one on your phone, whatever. But a timer is a really helpful tool in this process. I'm also using a continuous glucose monitor. So a continuous glucose monitor continuously monitors your blood glucose. Makes sense, right? There are two major brands of a continuous glucose monitor that I'm aware of. There might be more, but it would be the Libre, Libre 2 is the current one, Libre 2, or a Dexcom. Now, I use a Libre 2. It's just fine. Nothing wrong with it. My mom uses a Dexcom. That one seems to be a little bit better because the arm sensor can hold a few more hours of data than the Libre, which holds only about 3 hours of data. So if you don't sync your arm sensor every 3 or so hours, you lose some data with the Libre, but the Dexcom seems to hold that data for a little bit longer. Other than that, I don't think there's a noticeable difference. They cost about the same. And speaking of cost, if you have risk factors for diabetes and you have health insurance and you're in the US, I'm speaking those are all the caveats here. Many health insurers will have a preventative health or wellness division, and that group within your health insurer or your employer will offer you a free continuous glucose monitor if you have risk factors for diabetes. So it's worth talking to your insurer or your employer's wellness group if you're part of a large employer to see if you can get access to a free continuous glucose monitor. If you can't get access to a free continuous glucose monitor, they cost about $90 for a sensor, and the sensor lasts about 2 weeks. And then there's an initial upfront investment, and I'm not sure what that is because to get the reader because I have insurance, so I'm fortunate that it is covered. I also have the risk factors, so it's covered. I'd highly recommend a continuous glucose monitor. It lets you know how your individual body is reacting to different foods. It is a super helpful tool in this process, and I'm not quite sure what I would do without my continuous glucose monitor in the long term. It's not something that I need all the time because I'm starting to learn how my body reacts, but when I want to try out new ideas and test new foods, it's super helpful to know how my body reacts. So for example, if I'm going to have a cake, I have learned that that cake needs to be red velvet or something with a cream cheese frosting, cream cheese buttercream, if that's a thing. The cream cheese in the frosting increases the fat content in the piece of cake dramatically, and subsequently, my blood sugar does not spike as much if I eat a high-fat piece of cake versus if I eat like a lemon raspberry cake with a standard buttercream frosting. That's going to murder my blood sugar. But the increase in cream cheese in a cream cheese frosting. So I bet a carrot cake, if I ate carrot cakes, would also work for that because it has a cream cheese frosting. Carrots are a perfectly good way to ruin a cake. But I digress. Okay, I'm also using a fasting tracking app, and it's on my phone, and it's called Easy Fast. It's free, and I will leave a link to it down in the description. They do offer you the opportunity to donate to the development team if you're interested, but it is free to use, and it's a really good tool. Something I want to start soon, but haven't started yet. So I didn't exercise at all to achieve this 20-pound weight loss. This was all diet. But that's not going to last forever, and I do need to incorporate movement into my life because I'm not preparing for my beach body. I'm preparing for my old lady body. I want to have strong bones and flexibility, and I want to not worry about falling, and I want to be able to play with young people and walk pets easily and all that stuff. So exercise is coming, but it's not a part of this first 20 pounds. So some goals I have is I bought a kettlebell, and I already have a jump rope, and I want to learn how to use both of those. I want to buy a walking pad because where I live has a walkability score of 0. And I can go next door to the state park or go up the street to the national park or go down to the walking trail, but it's really hard for me to walk where I live. So I want to get a walking path to put on my deck because my deck is covered. And then I could walk in the rain or shine. And I could be close to home and close to the dogs. I guess dogs can walk. Yeah, dogs can walk, but whatever. I can be close to the dogs. Anything I can tell myself to get myself to exercise. So my exercise journey started actually in January before I officially committed to this weight loss journey. But I started by manually counting 5,000 steps a day. Using a knitting row counter that I clicked in my hand in increments of 500. I would just, during a meeting or between meetings, I would stand up and click through my 500 steps. And then I told myself that if I could get a week of 5,000 steps a day, I could buy myself a mini stepper. Great. Those cost like 50 to 80 bucks. And I was super excited. Until I figured out I don't have the fitness to use a mini stepper. So that's another goal, is to become fit enough to actually use the equipment that I have. So, hashtag someday. Some surprises that I learned is that it gets a lot easier. The first couple of weeks were hell, and the cravings were really, really fierce. And I did find that they go away unless you stray. And I really am and was and need to continue to avoid eating to numb my feelings. That is my MO. Boredom, sadness, joy, celebration. It doesn't matter. Let's eat, And I think there's a lot of people who feel that way, and it's a huge mental hurdle to get over. And then finally, what I tell myself is that feeling those feelings is hard, but feeding those feelings hurts more. So I think that my overarching takeaway from these first 20 pounds is that this is simple but not easy, and it's totally a mental game. And if you know the formula and you can self-manage, I was going to say it's almost effortless, but that's inaccurate. It's just easier than it seems. It's easier than it seems when your head's in the right spot. And I've done this quite a few times. I mean, I'm not a yo-yo dieter in that I haven't been on 1,000,000,000 diets, but I've tried a fair share. Probably the most important time I tried was about 15 years ago, and it didn't stick, obviously. So that's how I lost the first 20 pounds. It's really about, for me, it's about mindset, making space in my head through counseling, making the active decision to try again, deciding what I was and wasn't going to eat, looking into intermittent fasting, eliminating the high calorie drinks that I was ingesting, really focusing on mindset and strategy, finding some key resources that help along the way, and then someday soon incorporating exercise. So if you are on a weight loss journey right now, you might want to consider joining my absolutely free weight loss community. It's on Discord, and it takes about 5 steps to join. You have to download an app called Discord if you're not familiar. It's commonly used in the gaming community. While I'm not a gamer, I used to be married to one, so I'm pretty familiar. Come and join us. We have a lot of really rich conversations going on. We're talking about cravings. We're talking about things we're eating. We're sharing progress pictures. We're sharing pictures of our plates. We're supporting one another. And it's really, really a beautiful thing. And we have quite a few people who are embarking on their own journeys. So if that's something that you think would help you, come and find us on Discord. There's a link down in the description box below. If you have any thoughts, I'd love to hear them in the comments. I apologize for the casualness of this situation, but I've tried to record this video a bunch of times and I couldn't make it happen. And it's 2 o'clock in the morning and I'm fasting and I can't sleep. So this seems like as good a time as any to record this video. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on those notifications so that you can receive all of the videos that I post. I post a new vlog about my weight loss journey every Friday, so keep an eye out for that. And thank you so much for being here. I wish you luck in your journey. And remember, time passes anyway, so where do you want to be when it comes around? Have a great day, and good luck on your first 20 pounds.